नमस्यादिलक्ष्यम् एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। ओम शांति शांति शांति।
This is a prayer to Swami Vivekananda. You are the brave son of Sri Ramakrishna. We bow down to you million times. You came to establish harmony of all faiths, liberate by giving initiation to many. You are ever free of worldly ties. You come to establish religion. You showed Shiva in all living beings. O Son of Sri Ramakrishna, bestow thy love and devotion in our mind. We bow down to you, O brave Son of Sri Ramakrishna, a million times. धर्म भेद के भंजन हारे करता तुमको जगत प्रणाम। धर्म भेद के भंजन हारे करता तुमको जगत प्रणाम। राम कृष्ण के वीर दूत को करते हम सब कोटि प्रणाम। धर्म भेद के भंजन हारे धर्म भेद के भंजन हारे। भवबंधन से सदा मुक्त हो आए जग कल्याण करन को। भवबंधन से सदा मुक्त हो आए जग कल्याण करन को। मोक्ष मंत्र के देवन हारे मोक्ष मंत्र के देवन हारे करता तुमको जगत प्रणाम। राम कृष्ण के वीर दूत को करते हम सब कोटि प्रणाम। धर्म भेद के भंजन हारे धर्म भेद के भंजन हारे। धर्म स्थापन करने आए जीव में शिव के दर्श कराए। धर्म स्थापन करने आए जीव में शिव के दर्श कराए। युग धर्म प्रवर्तन हारे युग धर्म प्रवर्तन हारे करता तुमको जगत प्रणाम। हृदय बसो जगत प्रणाम राम कृष्ण के वीर दूत को करते हम सब कोटि प्रणाम धर्म भेद के मंजन हारे धर्म भेद के मंजन हारे।
I'm reading from the book Talks with Swami Vivekananda. The place is Belur Mutt, under construction, year 1898. The disciple is Sarachandra Chakravarti, the disciple of Swami Vivekananda. Here, Swamiji and the disciple both are talking about India. Disciple: Sir, is it possible now to cleanse this Asian taste table? Swamiji: What nonsense do you say, you coward? You have well nigh thrown the country into ruin by crying, "It's impossible, it's impossible." What cannot human effort achieve? Disciple: But sir, such a state of things seems impossible unless sages like Manu and Yajnavalkya are again born in the country. Swamiji: Goodness gracious! Was it not purity and unselfish labor that made them Manu and Yajnavalkya? Or was it something else? Well, we ourselves can be far greater than even Manu and Yajnavalkya if we try to. Why will not our views prevail then? Disciple: Sir, it is you who said just now that we must revive the ancient usages and observances within the country. How then can we think lightly of sages like Manu and the rest? Swamiji: What an absurd deduction. You altogether miss my point. I have only said that the ancient Vedic customs must be remodeled according to the need of the society and the times, and passed under a new form in the land. Have I not? Disciple: Yes, sir. Swamiji: What then are you talking? You have read the Shastras, and my hope and faith rest in men like you. Understand my words in their true spirit and apply yourselves to work in their light. Disciple: But sir, who will listen to us? Why should our countrymen accept them? Swamiji: If you can truly convince them and practice what you preach, they must. If, on the contrary, like a coward, you simply utter shlokas as a parrot, be a mere talker, and quote authority only without showing them in action, then who will care to listen to you? Here, Swami: Disciple: But sir, what will be the use of undertaking such works? Is not death stalking behind? Swamiji: Fie upon you! If you die, you will die but once. Why will you die every minute of your life by constantly harping on death like a coward? Disciple: All right, sir. I may not think of death, but what good will come of any kind of work in this evanescent world? Swamiji: My boy, when death is inevitable, is it not better to die like heroes than as stocks and stones? And what is the use of living a day or two in this transitory world, it is better to wear out than to rust out, especially for the sake of doing the least good to others. Here is ready.
Now let's have a few minutes of quiet meditation. Just try to gather our thoughts. Our minds are wandering all over the place. Let's take a few minutes. Just hold the room for a moment. Bring your thoughts from wherever they are wandering slowly and gently to the shrine. Remember why you are here. Remember what it is that you are seeking. And remember the words of Sri Krishna and Swami Vivekananda and Holy Mother, that you have the power to reach your goal. With those inspiring thoughts, pull the mind together and focus it on your spiritual aspirations and in your ability to realize your aspirations. Hard to listen to the words of Swami Vivekananda without being profoundly affected by them. They are, in their very nature, full of power and full of inspiration and light. And so I can think of no better way of practicing spiritual disciplines than to expose yourself repeatedly and in great detail to the thought of Swami Vivekananda. So today the topic is Swami Vivekananda and the discovery of India. So what I want to do is discuss with you briefly the period of Swami Vivekananda's life during 1890 to 1892. And in that period, he made a very momentous discovery, the benefits of which we are still reaping today. And the more we understand what happened in those 2 years, the more we can benefit from that discovery. So let's approach this slowly. It's a big topic, by the way. On any topic about Vivekananda, you can take up, any one of us can take up and develop for many hours at a stretch. So of necessity, this will have to be abridged. Swami Vivekananda's thought, of course, had its roots in the ideas that he was exposed to, was taught by Sri Ramakrishna. So let's begin actually a few years before, in August of 1886. Sri Ramakrishna passed away. Try to imagine, if you can, the state of mind of the direct disciples immediately after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna. First and foremost, the master taught that religion is realization. Such teachers are rare. They were rare then, they are rare now. Because many are of the view that in practice, realization is only for a few, for a select few. And that the rest of us have to accede to the conclusions of our religion with no personal ability to verify their truth. But Sri Ramakrishna insisted that his disciples should make efforts to realize God. And Sri Ramakrishna's own life, of course, was a shining example of the intensity of struggle that's needed to realize that goal. You know, for example, how he used to cry at the end of a day. One more day has passed and I still don't have your vision. Sometimes he would rub his face on the ground and weep that he had not yet realized. And in such a piteous way that those who observed it and who didn't know him thought this poor boy must have lost his mother, so he's crying. But actually he had such anguish that he had not yet realized his spiritual ideal. All of this was certainly a great inspiration and force for the disciples to dive into spiritual practices. And certainly in his presence, for example, when they stayed over at Dakshineswar, all the direct disciples felt a strong desire to do tapasya. There's a statement that Swami Akhandananda made. I think it was Swami Sarvatananda, who was a disciple of Swami Akhandananda. In course of conversation, once said to him, "So when you slept at Dakshineswar," and he didn't finish the sentence. He said he was going to ask a question. He said, "When you slept at Dakshineswar," and Swami Akhandananda said, "We never slept. When we stayed with the master, it was a constant spiritual practice. We didn't dare sleep. We don't know when he's going to get up and start teaching." So in his presence, there was a great force that whoever you are, whatever you may think your level is, you must try your all, you must give your all to try to have the direct perception of the spiritual ideal. Now, after the passing away, of course there was a tremendous sense of loss. The physical presence was no longer there. But equally so, there was a real push from within that let this not have been in vain. Our having met the Master and gotten first-hand his teachings, let this not be in vain. And deeply ingrained in them was one of the teachings of the Master. When the lotus blooms, the bees come of themselves. There is no need to speak about your spiritual understanding. Just practice disciplines and try your best to realize God. Sri Ramakrishna thus formed a band of disciples, soon to be monastic, and amongst other instructions he gave to Naren was, see that they don't return home. Within 2 weeks of the passing away of the Master, the Kasipur garden house, where they had been nursing him, the lease expired. That was at the end of August 1886. The rent for that place was being paid for by several householder devotees, very generous in their own way. And for whatever reason, we have to assume that they had legitimate issues, they were not willing to continue to pay the rent there. So this raised the problem of what these direct disciples were going to do. Of course, some suggested, look, you all have homes. You should go back. Practice spiritual life according to what the Master taught you. but go back. It's the practical thing to do. As if anticipating this, this is the one instruction that Sri Krishna gave Naren. See that they don't return home. Finally, so being perplexed that Naren was caught and trying to figure out what is he going to do, how does he discharge the task that the master gave him, and yet where is the money going to come from if they want to stay somewhere. Finally, it took a vision of Sri Krishna himself to the disciple Surendranath Mitra, one of the household disciples, saying, look, my boys, you better do something for them. So that vision either scared him or inspired him or whatever. Anyway, he offered to pay some money, and they found this dilapidated building in Varnagad, which nobody else wanted. Nobody else wanted because, partly because it was dilapidated, it was at the time occupied, mainly by snakes and lizards, and it was haunted. But these guys didn't care. It was fine for them. It was a place where they could be together. And so the Varnagad building was rented. So all of this happened around the beginning of October 1886, about 6 weeks after the passing away of Sri Krishna. And there the direct disciples engaged in extremely serious spiritual austerity. So much so that people used to say the ghosts got scared and ran away. They were intense, and it was from a material point of view a state of great deprivation. They weren't sure whether they would be able to eat that day. If they ate, it was probably rice and some boiled leaves, sometimes no salt, sometimes a little bit of salt. They hardly had any clothes that they could wear to go outside. If anybody had to go outside, there was one set of presentable clothes. So it was a pretty intense time of trying to stay together, trying to keep alive the master's ideal. On top of that, as if that wasn't enough already to feel great anguish within, Naren at the time was fighting a court case, a case that was brought against their family by his own relatives. So it was a really tough time. And yet Naren understood, having been entrusted to all these people by Sri Krishna, he didn't let on any of this to the others. Because he had read extensively and his mind was constantly examining and interpreting everything that he heard from Sri Krishna and everything that he had read, he was able to engage everybody in a lot of discussion. And in the various discussions of Varnagad, he would present different philosophical points of view, sometimes contradictory points of view. One day he'll say God exists and argue with them and defeat everybody on that. Next day he'll say God doesn't exist and defeat them on that. He'd tell them about Kant and Hegel and Mill and Spencer. They talk about sociology, history, literature, art. All topics were valid topics for discussion. Now at first this seems to be in contrast, almost in contradiction to Sri Krishna's words. He said, if you go into a mango orchard, eat the mangoes. Don't count the leaves, don't count the trees, the twigs. But in Naren's mind, something else was going on. And what he was seeing was a grand unification of different strands of human thought, all contributing to a process of spiritual growth. And this, I think, is an important principle in Vivekananda's thought. With the shining light of spiritual reality, examine everything. Our capacity may be limited, but we should not therefore diminish or undermine or underestimate any aspect of human endeavor. Now occasionally from Varnagad, the disciples would set out on pilgrimage, 1 or 2 at a time, for short periods, individually or in small groups. Sometimes Holy Mother would join the party as well. Usually they would, the trip would be short, sometimes they'd fall ill and have to cut their trip short and come back. But in any case, all of these excursions were brief, and the base was still the monastery. But in 1890, this changed. Naren set out on a different kind of journey. And he didn't come back until 1897, when he was already world famous. He wanted to go alone and not in the company of his brother disciples. This was not an ordinary kind of pilgrimage, it was a new kind of pilgrimage, not to places of worship, but to India. He wanted to discover what India is. Already well read in both history and the current state, he wanted to discover firsthand what was actually happening in the country. He wanted to meet and live with ordinary people and understand their problems. He wanted to meet and live with ruling monarchs and understand their perspectives and help them to guide, help them to rule more wisely. He wanted to see how in the land that he knew had given birth to some of the grandest truths about spiritual life that have ever been discovered in the world, how these truths were being practiced, or perhaps how they were not. And besides his own spiritual fire, he felt he was on a mission, and that Sri Ramakrishna had given him this mission. But the catch was, he didn't know what the mission was. Now, I'm going to take a step back and say, if it weren't for Swami Vivekananda, we might not realize that even with Sri Ramakrishna, there are two things about his teachings that were very unique. One was that different religions are paths to the same goal. And if you read the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, this largely comes across like this. Look, don't argue, don't condemn others, don't think others are wrong. You have your path, they have their path. The second was the one that we have a social responsibility. Again, at first you might not associate this with Sri Ramakrishna, but he clearly said, look, you have to take care of your family. He scolded Hazra. Your wife and child are somewhere there and you're sitting here telling your beads. Who's taking care of them? And as far as he himself was concerned, he was always made sure, as long as his mother was alive, she was taken care of. He always made sure Holy Mother was taken care of. You know, on the pilgrimage to Deoghar, he asked Mother, give all the poor people some cloth and some oil. But in Swami Vivekananda's hands, both of these principles became significantly transformed and made very prominent. And they are the pillars of what makes the Ramakrishna Vivekananda movement unique. Firstly, let's talk about the harmony of religions. It's not just about getting along. Don't argue with people. Don't think others are wrong. It's not just that. In Swami Vivekananda's hands, that principle became a step towards a scientific basis for spiritual inquiry based on empirical grounds. It became a new discipline to strengthen one's own understanding of one's own path. That's why in Chicago, you could say, a Christian is not to become a Hindu or a Buddhist, but a better Christian by understanding and assimilating the perspectives of the Hindu and the Buddhist. It's very important to understand that he had taken Sri Ramakrishna's teaching and put a new light on it. Secondly, about our social responsibility that Sri Ramakrishna had said, he amplified it. The service of man as worship of God. It's not just about taking care of your family, your social obligations, but a new path of spiritual upliftment, and one that could be accessible to everyone, monks and householders alike. Everyone can participate. You might say, I have difficulty studying the scriptures. I have difficulty concentrating my mind. But all of us can serve. In some sense, it's sort of, when he said in as many words, the great truths of Vedanta are to be made accessible to everybody, it may not be directly in study of books or the practice of meditation, but everybody can practice in the worship of God through the service of man. Everyone can participate, everyone can do something, and thereby derive some benefit to their own spiritual life. He thus cast open the possibility that everyone could make progress in spiritual life. But to get to this point where he transformed and amplified these principles that Sri Krishna taught, to get to this point, Swami Vivekananda had to discover India. He was, as I said, on a new kind of pilgrimage. Shankara had gone around the country with the express mission of defeating the Buddhists and establishing the Advaita point of view. He did this through debate, and also once he had succeeded, he established monasteries at the four corners of the landmass. And he also founded monastic orders at each place to continue the teaching. But this was pure spiritual ministration. And Shankara and his followers emphasized that for a monk, karma, in the sense of action, is bondage. Shankara was given his mission by his teacher, Govindabala. Swami Vivekananda, as I said, also was given a mission by Sri Ramakrishna, but Sri Ramakrishna didn't tell him what it was. And so he was in the process of having to discover that. Many that he met during his wandering days throughout India felt sure that this young monk would be a great man and make his mark on the world. But how? One idea started to dominate in Swami Vivekananda's mind, namely the service of man as the worship of God. You remember when he first heard this, many years earlier, from Sri Ramakrishna, who in a semi-conscious state was talking about the duties of a Vaishnava, a devotee of Hari. And one of the things was, he said the expression Jiva Daya was not quite accurate, not compassion to living beings, but worship of people as manifestations of Siva. And you remember that Swami Vivekananda Naren heard it at that time and made a comment that if God gave him strength, he would teach this to the whole world. That was far before he had any idea that he had a mission. Long before Sri Ramakrishna told him that he would have to do something, he made this comment. Indeed, it was the best way to apply the principles of Vedanta to everyday life. The whole edifice of Maya that had been erected by Shankara to distinguish the spiritual from the phenomenal had to be dismantled. Not because Shankara was wrong, but Shankara's method ignored two principles. Firstly, the same reality is perceived in the phenomenal world as in meditation. What Sri Ramakrishna said, the stairs are made of the same substance as the ceiling, as the roof. And the second is that spiritual life is a process of growth. We're all growing, and in doing so, we follow different paths at different speeds, and we have different strengths. Service also leads to growth. This applies to monks as well as householders. The time that we spend in study and meditation needs to be supplemented with service. And service is more an attitude or a perspective than a specific activity. But the point is, whatever our station in life, service done accurately can transform the whole of life and turn everything we do into a spiritual discipline. Many years later, Swami Vivekananda said, the fictitious differentiation between religion and the life of the world must vanish, because Vedanta teaches oneness, one life throughout. I want to return to this most fundamental teaching near the end of the talk. For now, observe that this greatly increases the ways in which we can spiritually grow. It covers the whole of our life. Moreover, it greatly increases the population that can participate in this growth. No one can claim in this that they are unqualified or unable. Everyone can participate and everyone can derive some benefit. Now there are many amusing incidents that occurred during his wandering days, and they are nice to note. And we see some of his most famous teachings that he expressed in as many words in lectures later on, based on incidents that occurred during his wandering days. For example, you know the story of the monkeys in Varanasi that were chasing him, and he started running, and a more elderly, more experienced monk told him to stop. And he stopped and faced the monkeys, and the monkeys fell back. And he used that later on in one of his lectures: face the terrible, face it boldly, and then it falls away. And Govardhan, he had decided that he would eat only when food was offered to him. He wouldn't ask anybody for food. And usually somebody would offer to him, but once it happened, nobody did. And he was quite hungry. And then when he thought he was completely exhausted, from the distance somebody was beckoning him and said, "Come, come, I have food for you." So anyone, firstly, we wouldn't have allowed ourselves to get to that stage. We would have asked for food or much earlier. But anyway, even if we did, if somebody's calling you, you'd say, "Great, this is exactly what I was looking for," etc. But he decided to test God. So he started running away. Swami Vivekananda, you have to understand, was a muscular, well-built person. So he could run fairly fast. The person started chasing him. This went on for a while until somehow or other that person caught hold of him and then gave him the food and he accepted it. There are many more. At Meerut, he was not so well, so he asked one of his brother disciples who happened to be with him at that time, "Please go to the library and get me the works of Sir John Lubbock." How many have heard of Sir John Lubbock? Do you know who he is? So firstly, we don't know who he is, and we have access to whatever education we want, and Wikipedia and Google and all that. We've never heard of his name. And this man is sick, and he asks his brother disciple, "Please go and get the works of Sir John Lubbock." Sir John Lubbock, actually, I had looked this up once before. If I remember correctly, he is one of the people who classified the early history of the earth, the different eras, in which the geological eras through which the earth went. So, for whatever reason, he wanted to read those books, but the point is, Akhandananda, I think, was bringing one volume each day and returning it the next day. The European librarian there thought, is your friend looking at the pictures or reading the book? And of course, Swami Vivekananda said, "If you have any doubt, please come and ask questions." And he asked questions, and he was able to not only answer, but give verbatim answers. In other words, he had that kind of ability. So there are many more stories like this you can tell. In Jaipur, he was trying to study Sanskrit grammar. And there was a very famous grammarian there who was trying to explain to him Panini, Ashtadhyayi. And he spent, I think, 3 days trying to explain the first aphorism. Now you have to understand the sutras of Panini they're really very brief, like Raka, Wala, a little bit like some letters that don't seem to mean anything, but that's it. So you depend entirely on the commentary to understand what these mean. It's 3 days that the scholar tried to explain to Swami Vivekananda what the first aphorism means. And Swami Vivekananda couldn't understand. I mean, you can imagine something weird about that aphorism if Swami Vivekananda had trouble understanding of it. Anyway, then the Pandit gave up and said, "I can't teach you." Clearly, he blamed himself, "I'm not able to teach." At that, Swami Vivekananda, like a young student, felt so bad that he had disappointed his teacher that he went quietly to his room and focused his mind. And in 3 hours, he said he was able to master that aphorism, went back to the teacher and started explaining it. And the teacher asked him, "How could you get it in 3 hours? I've been trying to teach you this for 3 days and you didn't get it." He said, "I wasn't paying attention." And so, as soon as I concentrate my mind, in his words, if the mind is intensely eager, everything can be accomplished. Even mountains can be crumbled into atoms. Another time in South India, in Belgaum, he was talking, I think, to Haripada Mitra, and he quoted a little bit, actually he quoted a lot from Pickwick Papers. Pickwick Papers, you know, is a book by Dickens. I don't know have any of you read Pickwick Papers? So I have not, because I can't stand those kind of books. I can't get past a few pages. I don't know how he managed to read the whole thing. But Pickwick Papers, you see, is about a group of amateur scientists going around discovering various things. Now, maybe I should tell you a story about Dickens, which will show that he's not as, there's a negative side to him, a very dark side to him. His son served in India, in the military, and was killed there. Dickens Sr. blamed the natives. And so he had a hatred for everyone on the Indian subcontinent. In fact, advocated to the British government that no harm would be done if the entire race were eliminated. So there was a very, very negative view about India in Dickens' mind. It seems to me Pickwick Papers is actually a commentary on the Asiatic Society founded by William Jones. William Jones was a scholar, a jurist, who was posted to India in the 1700s. A very scholarly man. He realized he had to learn, if he was going to serve as judge, he wanted to understand the laws, the traditional laws. So he collected Sanskrit scholars to help him to translate for him works of Manu and other lawgivers to see what was the tradition, legal tradition of the country. And he was so inspired and impressed by his works that he founded the Asiatic Society. The purpose of the Asiatic Society was to study the archaeological, the literary, the scientific treasures of the Indian subcontinent. It created quite a stir, both in India and in England, and quite a good reputation. It seems to me Pickwick Papers is an attempt to denigrate the Asiatic Society. But anyway, Swami Vivekananda was quoting extensively from it, and his host asked him, how many times have you read this book? He said he read it twice. That itself is an achievement as well. It was hard to read it even once. But he read it twice, but just having read it twice, how could he quote so extensively? And again, he said that it is all the power of concentration. Power of mind arises from control of the forces of the body. The idea is to conserve and transform the physical energy into mental and spiritual energy. I'm telling you this not because it's really directly connected to the main theme, but if you read and study the Wandering Days of Swami Vivekananda, you get not only his main mission, not only amusing incidents, but you understand the genesis of his thought that he later expressed in his lectures in the West. But anyway, getting back to our main theme, as he traveled throughout the country, he was inquiring into the social customs of each region, and he felt that social institutions such as caste were a drag on the masses, and that the regeneration of India demanded the throwing open of the immortal truths of the Vedas and the Upanishads to the masses. Captured in this, there are several things all coming together. Firstly, he was starting to feel that his mission somehow had to do with the regeneration of India. Secondly, he was realizing that it had to involve the masses. It had to be something in which everybody could participate. Thirdly, he felt that the regeneration of India demanded that everybody should be able to access the truths of the Vedas and the Upanishads. On the other hand, in terms of the effect of the West, you see, he wasn't the only one to be thinking about regeneration of Indian society. There were a lot of reformist societies. People were making all sorts of comments and proposals on how India could be reunified. Some of them felt that we had lost our way and that now was the time to adopt Western methods. Swami Vivekananda had a more nuanced view of the role that Western thought could play. Firstly, he felt that Western influences taken as they were had degraded society. He says, what a frivolous civilization it is indeed that the foreigners have introduced into our midst. What a materialistic illusion have they brought with them. On the other hand, he certainly knew the value and the importance of science and the scientific method, and that by learning how that method had been successfully used outside of India, that India also could benefit. At the same time, he astonished British officials who he met by explaining the spiritual basis of common social customs. Moreover, on the scientific basis of yoga, explaining it in the context of contemporary psychology. Finally, in January of 1891, when Swami Vivekananda was in Meerut, he threw a bombshell when he told his brother disciples that he knew his mission in life and that he had received the command of God regarding his future. But he didn't say what it was. Soon afterwards, we find him in Delhi, and then from Delhi, he went to Alwar in Rajputana. In meeting the people of Alwar, he was able to attract Hindus and Muslims alike. He was a miniature India in himself, and wherever he went, he would be as comfortable in speaking and quoting from the Vedas and the Upanishads, as well as the Bible and the Puranas. And he illustrated his teachings with stories about Buddha, Shankara, Ramanuja, Guru Nanak, Chaitanya, Kabir, and of course Sri Ramakrishna. And interspersed with his philosophical and spiritual discourses was music. He sang Urdu songs, Hindi bhajans, Bengali kirtans, songs of different devotional saints. And some days he would capture the attention of all of his listeners with a discussion about the history of different countries and their social habits and customs. In Alwar, there was this famous discussion with the Maharaja Mangal Singh Ji about idol worship, which was very famous. The Maharaja, maybe to poke Swami Vivekananda to see how he would react, told him that, look, I can't worship stone or wood or metal or earth. What would be my fate? Kind of rhetorical question. And Swami Vivekananda at first didn't react. He said, well, I suppose everyone should follow the religious ideal according to their own understanding. But then you know, of course, what happened next. On the wall was a picture of the Maharaja, and he asked the Prime Minister to please bring down the picture, place it on the floor. Already that was shocking, placing the picture on the floor. But they did it anyway. And then he asked the Prime Minister to spit on the picture. Very shocking. You know the story, what happened. He said, the Prime Minister of course said, no, I can't do that. He said, why? Why can't you do it? He said, because it's, he showed, this is not your Maharaja. Your Maharaja is sitting over there. It's just a picture, it's a piece of paper. Why don't you spit on it? He said, no, but it reminds me of the... and then Swami Vivekananda explained to the Maharaja, you see, nobody prays to stones or metal or earth. They pray to God. That symbol reminds them of their spirituality. This is just one of many examples in which there was a sort of coming together of traditional points of view, reformist points of view, and Swami Vivekananda's ability to harmonize those two. He also taught the youngsters, this was still in Alwar, to study Sanskrit. He told them, study Sanskrit, but along with it, study Western science as well. Learn accuracy, my boys. Study and labor so that the time will come when you can put our history on a scientific basis. Indian history is disorganized. It has no chronological accuracy. The histories of our country written by English writers cannot but be weakening to our minds, for they tell only of our downfall. See, knowing one's history is an important part of identity. You can't know who you are if you don't know your history. And we can't claim to know India without knowing something of its history. And that history has to be expressed in the fashion that is prevalent among nations of the day. If at one time it was sufficient and acceptable to express history through poetry and through literature, we have to understand that today it has to be expressed more scientifically and more factually, almost even more forensically. Now, Swami also made some very important comments about the role of villages and cities, something that is timely and important even today. In particular, it is worth noting his comments on agriculture. He says, our sages of old were farmers. Janaka or Balrama is carrying the plow. You had to imagine he was doing some kind of agriculture. You see, there's an important point which I don't have time to dwell on now, but economic theory, if you read the development of the economic models, especially in the West, equates development with a movement away from agriculture. You will have graphs that trace how economic development occurs by, they tell you the percentage of population employed in different things. And as a country becomes more developed, the percentage of the population that is employed in agriculture decreases. And it moves, the way it moves is always agriculture to manufacturing to services. And that's used as a sort of barometer of where people are in the development scale. But what I was surprised to read, Swami Vivekananda pointing out here, and what I think is fully true even today, is that's based on a flawed model. And it's time to revisit even economic models. So he was talking in that day about villages as somehow being an important social institution that had to be revivified and refocused, and that agriculture had to be seen in a different way. As he moved throughout India, and he went through a lot of different places, he found social customs which he interpreted for the local people and suggested that they look at it closely and reorient themselves. Finally, he reached Trivandrum in South India, roughly in late 1892. And in Trivandrum, he said, I have gone all over India on foot and have seen with my own eyes the ignorance, misery, and squalor of our people. My whole soul is afire, and I am burning with fierce desire to change such evil conditions. Let no one talk of karma. If it was their karma to suffer, it is our karma to relieve their suffering. If you want to find God, serve man. And then, in December 1892, he made his historic visit to Kanyakumari. Eager as a child is to be back with his mother, so was the Swami to see the mother in that seashore temple. Out into the ocean, from the tip of the mainland, where the mother's temple is, are two rocks. And according to the Puranas, the larger and the farther of these two rocks is where the Divine Mother herself did tapasya. For it was there that Devi Kanya, she was called, did tapasya to win the hand of Maheshwara, Shiva. That's what the Puranas say. Swami Vivekananda reached that point on December 24, 1892. Not having any money, he He couldn't hire a boat to go to the ground. But the fire that was in him was burning in such a way that he leapt into the waters and swam. People were watching. There were several people whose recollections we have now, they are collected and recorded, were observing him. He went there on December 24th and he stayed there 3 nights. And he said later on, there, sitting on the last stone of India, he passed into deep meditation on the present and the future of his country. He thought not of Bengal, not of Maharashtra or of Punjab, but of India and the life of India. We could see this was a very unusual meditation. He was synthesizing in his mind all that he had studied and all that he had seen firsthand. With the meticulous approach of a scientist, he sifted through everything and came to several conclusions. 3 conclusions. Firstly, India shall only rise through a renewal and restoration of the highest spiritual consciousness. Secondly, the country has lost its individuality by forgetting its core strength and unique contribution to the world. Thirdly, the spiritual treasure now has to be unlocked for the purpose of, at first, the material upliftment of the people, and this can best be done through service. To him, religion was now no longer a special province of human endeavor. It embraced the whole scheme of things. The Vedas, the sages, asceticism, meditation, the supreme vision, the people, their lives, their hopes, their misery, their poverty, their sorrow, all of it was blended into one. And he saw that religion, without concern for the poor and suffering, was just so much dry straw. And so in that moment was born the prophet and the patriot in one. And he taught the fictitious differentiation between religion and the life of the world must vanish, because Vedanta teaches oneness, one life throughout. And this captures the Indian spiritual tradition for a millennia. And this was Swami Vivekananda's discovery of India. So, my friend, may we reflect on this discovery and make it our own, and use it as a powerful tool to further our own spiritual progress and the progress of others towards our spiritual goal. Is that right?